Welcome to Coruzant Technologies, home of the Digital Executive Podcast. Welcome to the Digital Executive. Today's guest is Trung Pham. Trung Pham is an entrepreneur currently living in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. He is currently the CEO and founder of RYSE, a local Toronto tech startup that is disrupting the smart home industry with its innovative approach to window shade automation. The company is solving a unique energy consumption problem that often goes overlooked. Buildings and homes account for over 3/4 of all electricity and energy use, 40% of which is associated with greenhouse gas emissions, including lighting, heating, and cooling. Well, good afternoon, Trung. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
You bet, Trung. I appreciate you jumping on. This has really been exciting waiting to get you on the show here. Like we said, we've got many guests from around the globe, from celebrity to Silicon Valley. And what I really like to hear is these startup stories, these entrepreneurs like yourself. And you've recently been on Dragon's Den, right? So that's the Canadian version of the Shark Tank. And so we're excited to jump into the questions and talk a little bit about your story. So Trung, you've got quite the career as an entrepreneur, and now you're the founder and CEO of RYSE. Could you share with our audience the secret to your career growth and what inspires you?
Great. So for me, it was actually the idea that we could build a real company with real products that had users that actually used our products in their homes. So I didn't really set out to be an entrepreneur. It was really accidental. As you know, from my story, it was a problem that I faced. I thought of a solution and really built a company around that. So for me, it was really just focusing on building the company and the products within. That's really kind of my real passion as the entrepreneur.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And you've done some really amazing things with, again, we talked about this before the shows, you innovated without, starting from ground zero. You're actually leveraging just an idea around, obviously these shades in people's homes, right? Or buildings. But really appreciate
exactly
what you're doing. So jumping into this pandemic, right? We've all suffered. We all had to pivot, shift, stay at home. But now that it's starting to lift, what are your plans for business growth going forward? And will it be any different than the last 15 months?
Definitely. So I would definitely say the last, 18 months or so with COVID has been extremely hard, especially for a tech startup that had a thesis that we would sell into commercial buildings and whatnot. So when COVID hit, we're a tech startup, funding really dried up on the venture side, and a lot of commercial buildings were putting the brakes on installing any new technologies for their space because it was being unoccupied. So now that COVID's being lifted and the vaccines are being administered, we're seeing a lot more interest, a lot more inbound requests for our technologies to be deployed just before the buildings get reopened again. And that's just from a sales and a business perspective. Things are beginning to pick up on the sales side. I think just from a company perspective, COVID has allowed us to kind of take a step back and think of how we operate as a company. We don't necessarily need to be in the office 5 days a week and whatnot. So I think I'm following the trend of a lot of these other tech companies out there that allows their teams to work from home and really get work done without interruption. So I call it the 3-2-2 model. You have 3 days in the office, 2 days work from home, and 2 days on the weekend. And that's what we're focusing on as a company, as a culture. And I think, during COVID, I think our company did a really good job managing the culture, make sure everyone is staying safe, staying healthy, managing their mental health, making sure they're going out when they can, because it's definitely a strain when you have to stay home on lockdown for months on end. So I think as the city reopens, we're still going to need that social interaction. So I think time in the office is definitely going to be needed, and it's going to coincide with the recovery of our sales into the commercial markets that we're targeting.
Thank you for sharing, and I'm glad to hear that things are starting to open up, but also you can start to see that the sales channels are starting to open up, and that's a really good sign because I think what we have is a tough economy ahead of us, a lot of inflation right now. So hopefully we can get this all changed and turned around. So thank you for sharing. And Trung, you're obviously leveraging some new and emerging tech in your tech stack, right? Is there anything you might be able to share with us today?
Yeah, so I think it's interesting. Everyone's obviously using Zoom for video conferencing and whatnot. And and there's other tools that we were using prior to really relying on Zoom, such as Asana for task management and whatnot. But what came with Zoom was a need to be able to manage all our meetings. You're taking a lot more meetings than you would in the office. Sometimes you just have casual conversations in the office and make notes that way. But with Zoom, we had to really leverage more software tools that allowed us to keep track of things and stay organized. So one of the great tools I love using, it's a web app called Fellow, and it allows us to track meetings. It could be recurring meetings, it could be one-on-one meetings. You basically keep a stream of the type of meetings, and you're able to keep notes, create action items, refer to your past notes and decisions. So I think that's a great tool. It's called Fellow. And the second tool that we really started began using was a tool called Notive, and it's essentially a note-taking tool. So it's in our current Zoom chat, but it basically transcribes all the notes for me, and allows me to revisit these notes every time I may have forgotten something from a conversation, just for more clarity and just for more reassurance. So I would say those are the two main tools that we've been using nonstop in the office since COVID hit.
That's amazing. Yeah, and I noticed that in our call tonight, our podcast, you have that product Notive, and I think that's amazing. And a lot of people are leveraging those types of tools, so I do appreciate that. So, Trung, last question here. Could you share something from your career experience that might be helpful for those looking to grow their career in either tech or entrepreneurship?
So speaking from my personal experience, if you really want to be an entrepreneur, it takes a lot of sacrifice. It is a stressful position because everyone is looking up to you, not just your team members, employees, but if you have investors, they're going to rely on you for constant communication. Every investor is different. So you might have a passive one that doesn't really bother you, and then you have the ones that are really looking for updates, every month, making sure that everything's on track with their investments. So you really have to be able to have be able to manage all that stress and really have a thick skin in that sense, where you're going to have opinions from team members, from investors, from customers, but you're going to obviously pick and choose what opinions to follow. And at the end of the day, it's your job to make those decisions. And that's really what it is as an entrepreneur. You're really making the end decisions, and it may not make everyone happy, but it's the best decisions for you and your company.
Great. Thank you for sharing. And I totally get it. As an entrepreneur, there's a lot of sacrifices you make. And at the end of the day, people look to you for answers, no matter who it is or where they are. If they've got some sort of interest in your company, they're going to want answers. So appreciate the share. I think that's really important for our audience to hear some of your insights today. And Trung, it was a pleasure having you on today, and I look forward to speaking with you real soon.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Brian.
Bye for now.